Hello, everyone. Hail Satan. Today we are going into one of the most misunderstood cards in the tarot, and in general, actually, in theology of what Satan is actually supposed to represent. So for people who are not too familiar of the concept of the devil and how he's sort of depicted for more higher initiated thinking, basically, Satan is a title. It's not a person. So Satan can be anyone. It can be you. It can be the government. It can be a religious institution. It can be a group of people. It can be your mother. It could be your father. It could be anyone. Anyone that's essentially an opposing force to your will. Okay? And I think that's a really fucking important thing to get through to people, because the devil isn't what they think it is. All I can think of is the simplest example I can think of is that the devil is anything, like if you put it in a more abstract term. So like what's one of Newton's laws of physics? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So as in whenever you move, whenever you cause movement in the world, you're generating Satan. That's what's happening. That is exactly what's happening, people. So we are going to go into it right now. So the devil, the lord of the gates of matter, the child of the forces of time. Blind impulse, irresistibly strong and unscrupulous. Ambition, temptation, obsession, secret plan about to be executed, hard work, obstinacy, rigidity, aching, discontent, and endurance. So, it's a lot of these things. So, it's anything that sort of knocks you off your path or opposes you, really. And in a sense, to the overlords, we're like the people are Satan, right? As an example. And the Lord of the Gates of Matter. And I want to bring something kind of important to that. If you watch or listen rather, to the Tool interlude track, it's called Eggs of Satan, but it's in German, right? All it is a cookie recipe, and what he's doing, he's constantly emphasizing all the ingredients, but then he says no eggs, and he says it at the very end, und keine Eier. So as in, yep, no eggs, because Satan is sort of divided against himself. Okay, the savior. So you know how I was talking about in my last tarot dissection, if you remember hearing it. Of asymmetry. So the Savior is born of Satan, but Satan is not born of the Savior. So we shall now get into that, and I'll show you exactly what that means. So this card is attributed to the letter IN, which means an eye, and it refers to Capricornus in the zodiac. In the Dark Ages of Christianity, it was completely misunderstood. Eliphas Levi studied it very deeply because of its connection with ceremonial magic, his favorite subject, and he redrew it, identifying it with Baphomet, the arse-headed idol of the Knights of the Temple. The early Christians were also accused of worshipping an arse or arse-headed god. See Browning, The Ring, and the Book of the Pope. And it's kind of interesting because I actually saw two arses just recently, or two donkeys, just out the front of a church. As of late, because I'm seeing so much weird devil symbolism or Satan symbolism in my microcosm. It's a kind of strange, because there's a lot of stuff to unpack here, and the fact that there's two donkeys is should show you something. Is like this universe just Satan versus Satan the whole time? We'll get into that in a minute. But at this time, archaeological research has not gone very far. The nature of Baphomet was not fully understood. See R20 above. So yeah, it's attributed to the Fool as well. At least he succeeded in identifying the goat portrait upon the card with Pan. And Pan is this... he was actually sort of degraded into a demon in Christian mythology, and I'm guessing in some other religions as well, because Pan is the god of nature, basically the happy god who who's in the forest. He's in the mountains. He's in the forest. He's in the trees. He's in the rivers. He's in everything. He's nature in of itself. So Pan, it's everything, all of nature, and you can tell with that a lot of that symbolism, right? With the horns, the fawn legs, but like a human torso, and a bunch of other things. So yeah, looking into Pan is also quite important to sort of understand what Baphomet sort of represents in a more totality point of view. On the Tree of Life, R2 8 and R2 and 15 are symmetrically placed. Sorry, it's R2 13. R2 13. Bleh. So death, and then this one would be the life principle. They lead from Tipareth, the human consciousness, to the spheres in which Thor on one hand and bliss on the other are developed. Between them, R2 14 leads similarly to the sphere which formulates existence. See note on R2 X and arrangement. So that would be Jupiter. These three cards may therefore be summed up as a hieroglyph of the processes by which ideas manifest as form. So yeah, life and death, ecstasy and thought, and all that other kind of thing, as you can sort of see between like Netzach and Hod, actually sort of support this. And the art card is sort of that foundation which holds that up together, in a way. This card represents creative energy in its most material form. In the zodiac, Capricornus occupies the zenith. It is the most exalted of the signs. It is the goat leaping with lust upon the summits of the earth. This sign is ruled by Saturn, who makes for selfhood and perpetuity. In this sign, Mars is exalted, showing in its best form the fiery material energy of creation. And I know that it's about to get into something kind of important because with material, because material creation required some form of motion or displacement, right? So and since this is more representative of fire into earth, that's why it's very much attributed to the devil, and you'll see why soon. The card represents Pangenitor, the all begetter. So yeah, Satan begets everything. Which means it. I don't know. So in some respects, in one sense, we're worshipping God, and in another, we're worshipping Satan. If we love this world and this creation, let's put it that way. It is the tree of life as seen against the background of the exquisite, tenuous, complex, and fantastic forms of madness. The divine madness of spring already foreseen in the meditative madness of winter. Yeah, and we've just had the spring equinox, so think about that. But the sun turns northward on entering this sign. The roots of the tree are made transparent in order to show the innumerable leapings of the sap. Before it stands the Himalayan goat with an eye in the center of his forehead, representing the god Pan upon the highest and most secret mountains of the earth. His creative energy is veiled in the symbol of the wand of the chief adept. So yeah, like twin serpents and wings, and I think that's kind of important as well because we were sort of talking about Heracles in the art card with like sort of taking control of the snakes, but Heracles can sometimes be attributed to the sun in some respects. There's a lot of overlap with Greek gods. It's kind of strange because Dionysus is solar. Apollo is solar. Heracles is solar. There's a lot of solar divinities. Zeus isn't though. He's just the sinusoidal wave. He's the breath, even to a certain extent the intellect, and thought. Yeah, but we'll continue. The roots of the tree are made transparent in order to show the innumerable leapings of the sap. Before it stands the Himalayan goat with an eye in the center of his forehead, representing the gold pen upon the highest and most secret mountains of the earth. The one eye is representative of basically duality, just sort of being made one, or sort of or manifestation, sort of descending from that one eye into opposites. So duality, and then of course your pineal gland probably is, in a sense, representative of Pan as well, if you want to think about it that way. His creative energy is veiled in the symbol of the one of the crown with the wing globe and the twin serpents of Horus and Osiris. Did I actually say that? Oh, I'm sorry, people. Anyway, we'll continue. Hear me, Lord of the Stars. For thee I have worshipped ever, with stains and sorrows and scars. With joyful endeavor, hear me, O lily-white goat, crisp as thicket of thorns, with a collar of gold for thy throat, a scallop bow for thy thorns. And I think that's just a weird poem to say we've always worshipped. Whether we know it or not, we've worshipped Satan in some way. Believe it or not. As much as like the profane wouldn't like to hear that. The sign of Capricornus is rough, harsh, dark, even blind. The impulse to create takes no account of reason, custom, or foresight. It is divinely unscrupulous, sublimely careless of result. Thou hast no right to but to do thy will, do that, and no other shall say nay. For pure will, unassuaged of purpose, delivered from the lust of result, is in every way perfect. And that's basically the point. So, like, will is not born of intellect, right? If we didn't have a psyche and we didn't have a will, the intellect would do absolutely nothing. The intellect is actually a secondary function that arises from will and the psyche. So fire and water. That's the prince after Yod, He, and Vav being the prince, and then He. So when you put it into that respect, so will is not something we can really. It's like trying to hold onto a fire. You can't cut fire and dissect it. And I think another really interesting thing is some fires, like certain industrial fires, for example, they're invisible, but they're still actually fire, and people can be set alight, and they'll be burning alive, and you can't see it. And another thing, blue flames in sunlight like appear invisible as well. So like if you go out and like flick on your lighter, you'll see that and it's daylight, you'll probably not get a very clear view of your your lighting. The formula of this card is then complete appreciation of all existing things. He rejoices in the rugged and the barren no less than smooth and the fertile. All things equally exalt him. He represents the finding of ecstasy in every phenomenon, however naturally repugnant. He transcends all limitations. He is Pan, he is all. And yeah, again, all. And I think that's sort of the point of our existence, right? Is to, well, for initiates anyway, is to sort of get to a point where glory and suffering is indistinguishable. Is just to sort of know that everything is like a moment of ecstasy, regardless of how repugnant or gross or sinister even it may be. But that's something you got to be quite careful about. Does not mean go be a bastard if it's not your genuine will to do so. So be very careful. It is important to notice some other correspondences. The three vowels, consonants of the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph, Yod, Ayin. These three letters form the sacred name of God. Yal. There you go. These three R2, 9, 0, and 15 thus offer a threefold explanation of male creative energy. But this card is especially represents the masculine energy at its most masculine. Saturn, the ruler, is Set, the ass-headed god of the Egyptian deserts. He is the god of the south. The name refers to all gods containing these consonants, such as Shaitan or Satan. And there was actually some talk about that when I talked about the hermit, because it's the Yod, the spermatozoa, that sort of actually gives it life. And because it's the male creative energy, it sort of creates everything on this earth. And the full being the sun or solstice wave, that sort of gives rise to the breath and opposites and things like that. So we now look at all of these ones. Sorry, that would be E, R, all. And you have male creative energy in those 3 tarot cards. So maybe if you're struggling with masculinity or you want to understand it better, maybe read those 3 tarot cards and study their symbolism a bit more. Essential to the symbolism are the surroundings. Barren places, especially high places, the cult of the mountain is an exact parallel. The Old Testament is full of attacks upon kings who celebrated worship in high places. This, also Zion itself, was a mountain. This feeling persisted even to the days of the Witches' Sabbath, held, if possible, on a desolate summit. But if none were available, at least in a wild spot, uncontaminated by the artfulness of men. So one of the most masculine deities is, there you go, worshipped by women. Largely. Who knew? Right? Note that Shabbatai, the sphere of Saturn, is the Sabbath. Historically, the animus against witches pertains to the fear of the Jews, whose rites are planted by the Christian forms of magic have become mysterious and terrible. Panic suggested that Christian children were stolen, sacrificed, and eaten. The beliefs persist to this day. And I feel like that's some of the symbolism that, like Crowley sort of tried to point out. Because I remember I can't remember where it was. I think it was like a magic and theory practice, like sacrifice of perfect innocence. Like and he's referring to that. Okay. And of course he even put a footnote and said, like, guys, this is a fucking joke, and he still got attacked for it and accused of like sacrificing children and that kind of thing. In every symbol of his card, there is an allusion to the highest thing and most remote. Even the horns of the goat are spiral to represent the movement of all-pervading energy. Zoroaster defines God as having a spiral force. Compare the more recent, if less profound, writings of Einstein. Compare Saturn at one end of the 7 sacred wanderers with the moon and the other, the aged man and the young girl. See the formula of Tetragrammaton. They are linked, and no other 2 planets since 32 equals 9, and each contains in itself the extremes of its own idea. I don't have much more on that, but as you can see, like, it's the devil is, again, and I think it's deliberately misunderstood. Like, it's on purpose thrown in such a way that we think that somehow Satan can be defeated. Well, he can, but not in the way you think. He's not just going to eventually disappear off this planet and we can wrap our hands in harmony and then go about that. It's the only time the adversary is defeated is when you gain awareness and you start to ascend out of the inferno. It's sort of noted in Dante's Inferno, actually, that he actually climbs out of the inferno off the greatest adversary on top of him, and it's Faust also used the help of Mephistopheles, I think that's his name, to bring himself out of his predicament. Even though they're both Satan, they ultimately both come to their end, and just like this universe will come to an end. Because we're destroying Satan, I guess. So if you love matter and you love existing, thanks Satan. If you think the reproduction of children is right, thanks Satan. No, don't dress your vices in virtuous words, as it's said. So we can definitely go a bit more into that. Yin, Capricorn, arthritis, magical formula on figure of Pan or Priapus. So yes, so Priapus is also one of those who's He's perpetually got a giant erection. So there's that. With thy right eye, create all for thyself, and with left, accept that all that be created otherwise. That is probably, I'm reading it from here. That is probably a really, really good thing to live by when you think about it. With thy right eye, create all for thyself, and with the left, accept all that is created otherwise. So it's just accept the way the universe has been created, and I guess as horrible as things are, right? Like gas prices are going through the roof. We're on the brink of World War III, and we got a bunch of psychos in all forms of government, whether it be the US, even Europe and Australia, and all that other kind of thing. But yeah, you just have to accept all that has been created, because guess what? We kind of created it ourselves. Because, and I think I want to say that just before I get more into this, everything is cause and effect. Okay. It's the basic premise of physics, and humans aren't excluded from it. So, like, when you look at certain phenomena, like you see some like extreme right-wing extremism, it's like, okay, what caused it? It didn't just come out because people are bad. Something caused it. Or on another side, like communists. Well, what caused it? What motivated people to support it or give rise to Stalin in the first place? Capitalism, what caused it? What made people support it? What caused such things to be set in motion? Once you understand that everything in this universe is cause and effect, you can start taking much greater responsibility of everything, rather than actually just shouting at people and doing all other kinds of things. And unfortunately, most people don't want to bring themselves to that simple fucking understanding. But yeah, here we go. The devil does not exist. It is a false name invented by the Black Brothers to imply a unity in their ignorant muddle of dispersions. A devil who had unity would be a god. There you go. So it's God, it's Satan, it's the savior, it's the devil. Non-duality, if you will. This universe is opposites, but it's also, in a sense, non-duality. And if you violate God's laws, or rather the laws of nature, and I think that's a really important thing to talk about, is people think, like, when they look at Bible stories, like, about violating God's laws and destruction and ruin coming to them, it's not like some sky god is, like, judging you, okay? And then, like, casting rocks or a lightning strike down on you. It is more that when you violate certain laws, whether they be, like, and I mean in structural laws of the universe. So say, for example, a building, it has to be built a certain way. It has to have certain strength. It needs to have certain functions in it for it to be upright, so it doesn't fucking collapse on itself. Because what happens if you don't follow those laws of architecture? The whole house collapses, or it's shitty, and it falls in on itself. Same thing with morality. If you don't follow certain like universal moral laws, which I know they exist, it's not subjective. It's not subjective. It's an actual science like physics and gravity. If you don't follow them, shit goes haywire. And if you take more than you need and you just continue to destroy the planet you're on, guess what's eventually going to happen? We all die. And because if you can't choose to live in balance with nature, you will be punished, okay? Nature will not be violated with impunity. Anyway, that's probably enough of that tirade, but I think it was a very important thing to sort of bring up to everyone. The devil may not exist, but there is most definitely a devil card in the tarot, and in my opinion, he is the most universally misunderstood character in the entire deck. Yeah, of course he is. But then, you probably guess I would say that this is the trump of Capricorn, the sign of the goat. Indeed, for the purpose of fortune-telling, the devil has truly been the scapegoat of all the perceived evils that could befall us, and the sinful temptations that are constantly luring us towards self-destruction. How convenient. But if the devil is supposed to be the card that represents evil, which card should we pick to represent good? All the other trumps have the potential of representing the qualities of both good and evil. Why do we need one card just for evil? I'm actually gonna. This is gonna be good, and I think maybe it doesn't have a good ring to it. Like, can you imagine this just being called opposing force or original force, original sin? Because that's essentially what it is. Like that, like movement is original sin. Okay, because it's what gave birth to the world, and since all of existence is in inequity, that would have to mean that the original sin is just simply creation, pure and simple. Like, you can't actually really make it any other way. And the reason why we are here is because the universe, well, the reason why the sin is because the universe started in the first place. Woe is me. Anyway. Can't the fool be thoughtless enough, the magus Lacernus enough, the high priestess seductive enough, the empress wicked enough, the emperor tyrannical enough, the hierophant bigoted enough, the lovers unfaithful enough, the chariot pretentious enough, lust lascivious enough, the hermit self-abusive enough. That's good. Fortune ill-fated enough, adjustment unfair enough, the hanged man tormented enough, death murderous enough, art chaotic enough, the tower catastrophic enough, the stars despondent enough, the moon deceitful enough, the sun narcissistic enough, the aeon destructive enough, or the universe cold and cruel enough to handle all the evil in the world. That's the bullet point. Everything has its opposite. There you go. Every single thing in this goddamn universe has its opposite, people. And the way that was put is was so elegantly done. I have no words. It's not one or the other, people, and it's usually a matter of perspective. Like, there's people who think Christ is this holy, beautiful being, and other people think he's a piece of shit and his teachings suck. There's other people who think the universe is wonderful and how it's created, and other people think fucking loathe it, and they want to see it fucking die off and see the sun explode. So there you go. And I think that's why it's such a important thing to maybe understand the devil card for anyone who's probably depressed even. Because it's basically the principle of life, because it's actually Satan divided against himself. No eggs. There's no eggs, and the eggs are Satan. And it's our duty to just sort of push forward that way. Without lust for result. All right. That was good. I'm glad I got that off my chest. It should be obvious that the devil is something other than the ultimate evil. That something other is just what his full title proclaims. He is the Lord of the Gates of Matter. That in of itself can be pretty scary. So as in, yeah, he's the gates of matter. He's what caused matter to... He's the serpent in Eden. He's what caused the fall. But what kind of dipshit god is dumb enough to put the tempter into his garden? Like, think about that for a second. No one ever asked that question. Why was Satan there in the first place? What was me? Especially if you've been convicted that earthly life is somehow an estrangement from God. And I certainly did think that for quite some time, because for this journey, I was actually a Gnostic Christian, and certain interpretations of Gnostic Christianity interpret the demiurge, or just the creator, as inherently evil and stupid and dumb, and that we had to escape this world. So there is that. Including you and me. And that all things on the material plane, including you and me, are inherently evil. Grow up. Yeah. Bit of a slap in the face for me right there, I guess. And I'm not afraid to say it, people, because I think authenticity is kind of lost in our world if we think about it. Like, I'm not gonna say that I haven't loathed most of my existence, but it is time to grow up in a lot of respects, and it's why I'm doing this. So let's continue. Whatever the supreme being is, it would not be the supreme being if it weren't everything, including you and me and the devil. It seems pretty obvious that the devil is just God as misunderstood by the ignorant and wicked. Crowley explains it like this. This card represents creative energy in its most material form in the zodiac. Capricornius occupies the zenith. It is the most exalted of the signs. It is the goat leaping with lust upon the summits of the earth in this sign. Mars is exalted, showing in the best of the fairy material energy of creation. The card represents Pangena, the all-begetter. Crowley tells us elsewhere that the Fool, the Hermit, and the Devil offer a threefold explanation of male creative energy, but this card, the Devil, especially represents masculine energy at its most masculine. Masculine energy at its most masculine indeed. Look at the card. Yeah, you're like, it's cock and balls. With shooting up into heaven. It's probably packing. I don't have to draw you a picture. Lady Harris could hardly have been more explicit. The whole card is the devil. A magnificent 3-eyed Himalayan goat stands before a tree, and its two great transparent globular roots. Perhaps most interesting are the figures in the testes. In traditional tarot decks, the devil trump shows a woman and a man standing beneath the devil in curious attitude of worship and bondage. That's actually, I didn't think about that, because I always thought it was something to do with salt, and bondage again. But maybe there is, something to that as well. These figures are translated in the Harris painting as 4 female forms in the left testicle and 4 male forms in the right. Wait, hold on. I don't really see 4 women, but I do see. But yeah, good point. We'll just keep it up there. And true, yeah, the figures are translated. The top male form bears the classical horned head of the devil, who appears to have fought his way to the top. True that. Oh wait, it is man and woman. I was looking in the wrong spot. The pair of broken lines are insinuative of chromosomes, and the starry rays at the equator of the globe suggest cellular division. This is the devil. The world has been taught to fear. He is life itself, unrestrained in mad love and seeking to grow and unite with absolutely everything. The formula of this card is then the complete appreciation of all existing things. He rejoices in the rugged and the barren, no less than the smooth and the fertile. All things equally exalt him. He represents the funny of ecstasy in every phenomenon, however naturally repugnant. He transcends all limitation. He is Pan, he is all. In the Wake world, Crowley spins a charming fairy tale of a little girl's initiatory trip up the Tree of Life. Her name is Lola, and her guide is her holy and guardian angel, whom she calls her fairy prince. When they reach path 26, that of Iron and the Devil, they attend a strange banquet on a desolated heath? I'm not too sure if that's a typo. It was midnight, and the devil came down and sat in the midst. But my fairy, a princess, whispered, "Hush, it is a great secret, but his name is Yeshua, and he is the savior of the world." Yes, I'm staring at you. I want you to contemplate that a little bit. And that was very funny because the girl next to me thought it was Jesus Christ, till another fairy prince, my prince above, whispered and kissed her, "Hush, tell nobody ever that is Satan, and he's the savior of the world." And that, everyone, is the end of it. So what can we take away from this? Okay, for everyone who's sort of probably like, I'm sorry if you're new to esotericism and this is like a shock to you, but I think we need to just sort of get over the idea of not that there's injustice, so to speak, but we need to get over this idea like you can somehow defeat evil, or like there's certain one notion of good and evil, and usually notions of good and evil are changeable to men and women and man in general. And for that to sort of come to that point, we need to sort of realize that we should actually just be doing our will. We should be embracing masculine energy, okay? Because we don't. I'm probably gonna go on a little bit of a tirade here, but we don't have like the same kind of masculine energy that we probably never have when you think about it. No one's ever really done their will. No one has ever really created things with like without lust for result. Like we are driven by profit motive, and can you see how that sort of flips a little bit? Instead of doing will, which is like heaven's will, God's will, we are instead doing the will of the earth and exploiting it and doing everything for profit. And it's been deliberately engineered that way. And we need to, and it's come to my attention that maybe masculinity probably never really existed that much when you think about it. I mean, in more absolute sense, doing it because you want to do the thing. Motion, doing it because you want to, and without lust for result. Like the doing the thing for the doing of the thing. Most people don't do that anymore. So you've obviously got dickheads like, you know who I'm talking about in the manosphere and that kind of shit. Because I don't really want to get into politics, guys, because I fucking hate politics at this point. Because if you are still somehow involved in it and you still haven't figured out that the whole thing's a con, you're lost. I don't have an identity to any particular political affiliation or anything like that. Anyway, that was a very important card, guys. Please actually really consider what I've said, because I know many people who would probably lose their fucking minds if I told them outright. But since you're here watching this, I implore you to really, really understand what this card means. I cannot stress it enough. Okay? It's so important. Anyway, guys, this is yours truly Baphomet, the devil. I'm devil. Whatever the fuck. Please like, share, subscribe to my Substack. I will talk to you guys later. Bye for now.